I just got 2 words for y'all. Dang, Deku, like, what the heck was that? Oh my freaking goodness, how? Oh my gosh, that episode was crazy. All right. I just gotta calm down and breathe for a moment, though. Let's just take this back up from the top, though. Hello, everybody. My name is Megazard and I'm back at it again to give you all another very exciting My Hero Academia episode review. And this time I'm going to be reviewing episode 76, Infinite 100%. And if you haven't already watched my episode 75 review of My Hero Academia, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner, check that video out, and then come back and check this one, though, because, oh shoot, now I really understand why in the world Deku was trending last week when the original sub-release actually dropped last week, though. And oh my gosh, there was just several moments during this episode where I was just standing up. There was one point where I just shot up out of my chair, and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like, is this really happening?" Like, there was just so many heart-moving moments, and just the action in itself, and the motivation and drive for these different characters between Izuku and Eri, and Overhaul's resolve, and why in the world he's doing what he's doing. It was, oh gosh, it was just a lot to take in, along with the amazing OST and everything else in between, though. But I'm going to get down into the nitty gritty in this review and discuss everything I liked about this episode, though. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into this episode review of My Hero Academia. あの日守ると決めた約束はこの胸に精一杯この涙かき分けて君に全てをあげるからお願いどうか消えないでくれあの日守ると決めた約束 Okay, so starting off at the very beginning of the episode, we actually get to see Nejire along with Sue and Ochako and Dragon Lady Ryuchu, and this is like the few moments that actually transpire right after everybody basically just rushed into the Yakuza stronghold. And basically they had that first original dude that basically broke down the front door when they were about to ring that doorbell, and they basically had him all pinned up and stuff, and they thought, you know what, hey, as long as this dude doesn't touch nobody, he can't use his quirk to kind of, bolster his strength back up and actually pose a threat. And that's what Dragon Lady Ryuchu actually thought originally, though. However, he had a little bit of that drug enhancing quirk from Overhaul, and instead of him having to be able to touch somebody, all he had to do was basically suck in all the different the energy from the other people that were standing by around him and whatnot, though. And all of a sudden he started busting out of his chains again, and it was like, oh shoot, well, here we go again. And it was up to them to basically put him back in line, though. And pretty much almost everybody else was pretty drained, except for Dragon Lady Ryuchu, though. But with a little help from Nejire, sending out like a few little blasts here or there, though, it was enough to basically distract the dude for just long enough to where, then we actually get to see Ochako as well as Sue, be able to do some things. Now, an interesting thing that actually happened was, all of a sudden we saw like Izuku come out of nowhere and say, hey, you know what? Hey, I need some help over here. And instantly in my mind I was like, that is not Izuku. Instantly I know that was Toga. Like, we know that she can, shapeshift and everything else, though. So instantly in my mind I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to understand the angle, why in the world she's trying to help the heroes, though. But we have to kind of look a little bit further into this and see their kind of motivation or whatever, though. So with Ochako using her, gravity, and we also had Sue basically kind of wrapping around Dragon Lady Ryuchu as well as that big old man, they basically took that thing like a wrecking ball and busted that sucker down into the ground below. And then that's how we actually got to see those final ending moments from the previous episode. And it was at this moment where Sue was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. Like, wait, if you're down here, then who did we see up there? And then obviously we know that was the League of Villains. And this was that little scheme that they were devising like a couple or a few episodes ago, where basically they were kind of assisting them. And essentially she was just going for a whole bunch of chaos. So she was just like, you know what, let's just have these two have these two confront each other head to head, and let's just see how crazy this thing really gets, and see if one doesn't completely annihilate the other team or whatever though. And I guess that was essentially their plan though, but it wasn't like too much to it though. But for the most part, what they did, it wasn't like super important, except for just giving them a whole lot more space and breathing room to be able to fight during this part. But then this is where the stuff really got real, because then we got to see the scene where Izuku was like, you know what, I'm gonna save Eri this time. Like, there's no it and nor buts about it. I'm about to come up in this mug and I'm about to go save that girl. You know what, I failed too many times in my life, and there's no way I ain't gonna reach out my hand and miss you this time, Eri, because gosh darn it, I'm gonna do it this time. And it was at this moment we actually got to see part of Togata's cape just flying through the air. And you know what, just seeing that cape just gave Eri just enough reassurance of some final last words that Togata actually said to her whenever he was still in action or whatever though. And it was at this moment where she actually took a leap of faith. But before that leap of faith, we actually got the rewind back in the past. And honestly, there was a lot of flashbacks within this episode. Honestly, a little bit more, and it almost kind of, well, I mean, they made sense in terms of how you relate them, from the past going into the present tense. But I just felt like if we just had a dedicated episode towards these flashbacks, and maybe we could have put all of these action sequences together so it would have been pretty fluid without any breaks. That's like my only little bit of negativity with this episode. And it's not even just for this episode, so to say, but it's more so like for the whole entire arc. Like, this happened like quite frequently, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't remember it being this heavy in terms of the flashbacks with any other past arcs. If I look at any of the other 3 seasons before this season though. But that was just my only little tidbit though. But it was important information because it was in this flashback where we actually get to figure out that, you know what, we know that the old boss basically took in Overhaul. And and Eri was essentially the old boss's granddaughter though. However, they didn't really understand what her quirk is. However, the old boss was like, hey, since you're really good Overhaul with figuring stuff out or whatnot though, why don't you do some research and figure out exactly what her quirk is, because it was like a really good mystery in terms of like we didn't know exactly what it actually was, and there was no way I was going to predict this mess though. But it was sort of kind of similar to Overhaul's, and the fact of the matter that it looked like she can kind of control matter or kind of like fix people up or whatever though, or break people down though. But it's not just that. It's actually the matter of fact that she actually has the power to rewind time on particularly anything that she actually touched, or any kind of person that she actually touched. So if the person takes a beating, she can rewind the time back to the point where before they actually did the beatings or whatever though. And that's her quirk, which is actually pretty crazy because she can actually be a really good healer whenever you sit down and think about it though. And then we get forward back into the present, and then we get to see Eri up on top of the, well, I guess on top of this rubble that's flying out and about and everywhere else though. But Eri actually gets to see Izuku, and she sees Izuku reaching out his hand, and she's like, you know what, I'm tired of running away. I gotta do something now. I got the resolve about me. You know what, I don't want anybody else hurt. And it doesn't seem like anytime soon where all of these other heroes that are risking their lives for me to make sure that I'm actually safe, they're not gonna quit until I'm safe. So why don't I help them out? So she jumps towards Izuku, and Izuku finally grabs her. And it was at this moment where Izuku said, you know what, from this point going forward, I am never gonna let you go again, because we know he's been hugely regretting that moment ever since he originally ran into Eri, and obviously he let her go for that time being though. And then it was at this moment where Overhaul literally almost started to break down. He's like, you know what, you better give Eri back to me this instant though. But one thing you could not forget during this one scene where Izuku finally managed to grab hold of Eri again was the OST that was going on in the background. It was something that we hadn't even quite heard of yet. And oh my gosh, that person that was singing that song, it was so beautiful. And I will be glad to admit it that moment actually shook me. And there's only like a handful of different animes that I can literally count on my fingers where an anime has shook me or got me to tear up a little bit because of how emotional that moment was. And it was just something about that scene. It was just something about it where I was like, dang. I was like, it took Izuku all this time though, but it finally looks like things are finally looking up for him after all that torture and all that agony and all of that, moment of regret. The matter of fact, he's actually halfway there in terms of, being able to protect Eri during this great time of need. It was just really touching and really awe-inspiring just to kind of see all that stuff kind of break out though. And it was at this moment where basically Izuku used his power so much to the point where he actually flew up extremely high into the air, and it was pretty crazy though too. And they were like, wait a minute, like where did everybody go? And it was at this moment where basically Izuku noticed that he used a lot of his power, and he was like, dang, I really knocked myself up this high in the air. And he tied that back to a previous moment where All Might actually used enough of his power to where, it ricocheted him so much, and he was kind of going back and comparing it. He's like, wait a minute, did I actually use 100% of my power? But then he realized, he's like, wait a minute, there's no way, because whenever I tried to use that much power back in the past, I always busted up my body, so that didn't make any kind of sense. And he was like, wait, is this really true? And then Overhaul was having a crazy insane moment. He was like, you know what? He was like, dang. And you could see that bloodlust towards Izuku. He's like, you know what? Gosh darn it, you're my one target now. You really getting on my nerves, and you're really the only thorn in my side though. And it was at this moment where Sir Night started to break down some of the events that he actually saw of what actually transpired into the future. And he said, you know what, we're safe for now, because right now Overhaul only has a sight on Izuku. And he's like, basically, you know what, they're gonna have some fighting to do, but in the end Izuku is gonna wind up dying. He's gonna wind up losing his life. It was at this moment where Ochako heard this. She was like, no. So she's like, no, not on my watch. Like, no, there's no way I'm gonna let Izuku die, not on my watch. And she tried to move, but then she just fell down to the ground. And she was extremely weak based upon some of the other previous fights and everything else though. And she was just trying to find the motivation and drive, because she's like, you know what, no future is a good future unless we have everybody here living that see that day though. But then Sir Night felt felt pretty sure of himself to where, you know what, there's no way after he used his quirk where he sees into the future where no one else is able to break that kind of a future though. But then he quickly lays out to the other members to say, you know what, hey, you know what, Sue, you need to go ahead and make sure you go get to Togeda and make sure, you save him, get him out of there. And like, Dragon Lady Ryuchu, get me up to the surface, because I got to see how all of this ends. Like, he wants to see it with his own eyes of the whole entire revelation of what will actually happen with this fight though. And then it was at this moment where Izuku was, back up in the air or whatever though, and he managed to lay him back down. And then he was like, wait a minute, your quirk, Eri, was the one that actually got to heal me. Your quirk actually rewinds time. And it was at this moment where he started to kind of figure that out. He started to manage to put piece by piece and figure that out. And then Sir Night basically came up in there, and he almost basically talked about how Eri's quirk worked as well. And he basically said, you know what, Eri's quirk, gets to rewind time, and you know what, she can even rewind time so much on a person to where they can basically be nothing. Like, they can get to the point of nothingness. And he even remarked, like, he can rewind it so far back, you can get basically turn somebody, a person back into a monkey. But anyway, putting that thought aside though, it was just crazy to kind of see how all of this stuff played out though. And essentially, at the grand scheme of things, we actually get to figure out, Overhaul's true intent on those bullets, because he wanted to use Eri's quirks not just to rewind a person's physical body, but rather rewind a person with enough critique in it to be able to take that person back to a time where quirks never existed. So basically, it went further than rewinding that person down from physically, but he wanted to basically sort of kind of eliminate quirks. But not even just that, but he also wanted to use those bullets to sell them to the villains to make them, deactivate people's quirks. However, he basically would have had like an antidote bullet to be able to use that and sell it to the heroes. And you know what? If we can sell to both sides and basically kind of put fuel to the fire on both sides, we can have a complete monopoly off of it. And he would have made a crap ton of money for their Yakuza group. And just thinking about all of that in a nutshell, that just sounds so crazy. Like, are you really that hungry to bring up your organization down from the ashes, down, you know, lower than dirt, to try to raise yourself up at the cost of putting Eri underneath that much harm? Like, are you kidding me, man? Like, that in itself is just super crazy. Like, how in the world can you set your humanity on the side like that? And that's what the old boss was basically seeing in him during those moments. He was like, you know what? He's like, I appreciate everything you're trying to do for me. I know you're trying to repay me back in terms of, you know, me being able to take you in, Overhaul, though, but no, this is not the road that you need to go down. And it was after this moment, Overhaul's like, man, this old man doesn't see this. Like, we can't keep doing things as we used to always do, or else we're still going to be down in the slumps like this, though. And it was at this moment where Overhaul actually took the old man's life and put it into a critical condition like that, which was crazy in itself. And that's the reason why that dude was in a beaten up state. He didn't necessarily kill him, because he still needed the dude's support to a degree, but he put him out of commission just enough to where, hey, you know what, I'm able to be able to take control and charge. And you know, he was reflecting back on that flashback though, and he's like, you know what, I about had it. And then this dude started going full out, and it was crazy. And then we could see Izuku going in with Overhaul, and thanks to Eri being able to heal him, or rewind the time, so to say, Izuku figured out and said, you know what, I gotta keep using 100% of my power way faster than what Eri can basically rewind time. So if I can manage to break myself down faster than what Eri can be able to heal me, then I should be alright from her basically rewinding the time far enough to where, hey, he basically turns into nothing and stuff. But anyway, we get to see this brutal fight go out though, and gosh darn, the animation in this thing, oh shoot, like, it was crazy. And there was just some like few moments in this episode where you just see the look in Izuku's eyes, and oh my gosh, that design when he had all that lightning surging throughout his body though, it was crazy in itself. I really dig that new design though. Gosh darn it, I haven't felt this good in a moment since, honestly and truthfully speaking, since some Dragon Ball Z moments, because I will definitely say I have not felt this strong about an anime since Dragon Ball Z. Like, this is modern day Dragon Ball Z for me. And oh my gosh, like, oh, there was just so many good things they did about this episode though. And gosh darn, it was a good way how they used Eri as a way to kind of like, you know, put like a ceiling above Izuku's head. Because think about it, if Izuku had tapped into this 100% state and had full control over it at this, you know what, the anime wouldn't have been that much more interesting from this point. There wouldn't even be that much more growth for Izuku as a character though. But this gave the perfect excuse to be able to let us see a glimpse into Izuku's big future and see exactly what all he could be capable of, as long as he keeps putting in the hard work and dedication for him to be able to master his quirk. And just seeing a glimpse of what he's actually fully capable of. And this definitely proves the point of why this episode was called Infinite 100%. And that's about it for this episode review. But gosh darn, I don't even know what else more to say, because other than the fact of the matter that this is by far the best episode that's happened this season, by far in some of my top most favorite episodes that will probably air for the rest of this year, in terms of this hype and just, oh my gosh, that motivation and drive and energy and passion for what he was doing. This, oh my gosh, it was just so many good things that happened within this episode, despite my little bit of tidbits of how they've been able to pace out some of these flashback scenes, which have been, you know, very crucial in terms of understanding key plot points for overhauls and Aries past though. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section below what all you thought about this episode. Did you really like it and enjoy it like me, or were there little things that you might want to gripe about in this episode? Just let me know down in the comment section below though. Oh gosh, for me, you heard it first with my original reaction as whenever I first started off this review. That in a nutshell just overall describes the overall hype and emotion, just the craziness that this episode had, and what a big impact it had for me watching this and being a huge fan of this series though. And to that, I say dang Deku, dang. But that is all that I have for y'all for this week's episode review over My Hero Academia. So you really like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to keep up to date on all things My Hero Academia. With the help of Eri, Izuku was finally able to take down Chisaki, but at what cost? Amajiki, Fat Gun, Rocklock, Kirishima, Asui, Uraraka, Mr. Ozawa, and Togeda all took some heavy blows. But how will the aftermath of the recovery process be for each one of our heroes? We'll have to find out about this and more in next week's episode review called Bright Future. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, go beyond. Blast Ultra!